Welcome to Us in My Life. Love you and cause I love you so much. Oh, 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 I just love you. I just like help, help. I just like help. I just like you too. I just like you. I just love you. Happy New Year! I love you, say goodbye. Just going to school, and that's okay. Yum, 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 yum. I just love you.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It is Wednesday. It is Wellness 5 with Georgette and Mary.
Happy New Day, Jugs. It's your neighborhood juice dealer and dope killer. You already know we on some wellness vibes. If you are in Atlanta, we are experiencing a lot of water, a lot of precipitation, and I am a little late for Good Sam today. That's, on Thursdays I report live from Good Samaritan Health Clinic. But I am late getting here today because your nephew was out of school. School has been canceled. A lot of businesses have canceled and closed up due to the hurricane making landfall and the rains. We're experiencing the heavy rains. So shout out to everybody who is at home, mom in it, dad in it, grandparent it, and yeah, that's where we're at today. Also on this,
Stay safe.
You said stay safe?
Yes,
absolutely.
Ma'am.
I think my family, when I say my family, I mean me, my father, and Gage, I think we are completely prepared for any and everything that could possibly happen. And when I say that, guys, I just want no, seriously. We have storm kits that I have prepared. We have about 20 gallons of water that are stored. I took this course a couple of months ago, and it was to prepare you for doomsday. So I literally made these kits up just in case. We have 2 generators. We've charged all of our portable chargers and backup electricity devices. And I also even know how to turn my bathtub into a water system where I can filtrate out dirty water and make it clean. So when I tell you I'm 90% prepared, I think we're ready. We live on a really tall hill. Storm windows have been put in. So yeah, and then the rest is hanging out with God and doing that. I want to give a special shout out to my son, Gage Patton. Gage, you say hello.
Hello.
It's the radio people.
It's the radio people.
Yes, it's the radio family. You had a question. What's your question? We are making juice today. We already have produce. In just a moment, we got to cue in today's topic. So just
get him back before he goes somewhere. I got exciting news for him.
Oh, go ahead. What you got? We got the radio.
So
your Aunt Mary Day.
Remember when
our radio?
Remember when we had Santa Claus on a few months ago?
Yeah.
Well, you better get your list together because he's coming back twice before Christmas.
And it's not Christmas.
And
I know, but get your list together.
Get your list together before. And 2, we're going to launch a new show coming up after Thanksgiving where you can actually listen to bedtime stories with Santa himself.
Don't you love that?
Yes.
That's amazing. So shout out to Santa. Love him. And then we also have a few things coming up. We're housing if you're in Atlanta, we're doing a paint and pumpkin party where we're going to paint, make fun things out of pumpkin and the pumpkin's inside, such as pumpkin cookies, pumpkin juice, and I think it was pumpkin something else. It's going to be pumpkin-tastic, okay? So those are the few things. The yoga classes are growing. But, speaking of growing, you know what else is growing, Mary? The number. Hey, ain't nothing wrong with your butts growing. If y'all been watching my Instagram, y'all know I've been growing booty too, heavy on the squat gang. But something else that is growing is that the number of children who are being diagnosed as autistic, neurodivergent, Asperger's, and the list goes on and on of deficiencies and neurodivergencies. These numbers are increasing at an alarming rate. And I will tell you guys firsthand, I was one of those who really think that children develop at their own, and each child is special in their own unique individual way, and they have different things, quirks, kinks, and dings about them. But now, more so than ever, our children are being labeled when some of the things is just normal. It's just kid things. It's just children things. And so today, let's talk about it. Let's have this conversation. Go for it. I had a statistic.
Go get your statistics first.
Okay, so 10 years ago, it was something like 1 in every 54 children are labeled autistic. More so a boy than a girl. 20 years ago, it was 1 in every 135. 30 years ago, it was 1 in every 267. 40 years ago, it was 1 in every 329, I think is what it was. And so on and so forth. You get what I'm saying. But today, right here, right now, it's 1 in every 9. 1 in every 9. Help me help you understand, Mary. Go.
So, the excuse that we get is awareness has been better. The testing is better. And so a lot of children who have social issues are now being diagnosed as autistic. The big part of that, and there are a lot of legitimate autistic cases. Verbal issues, not being able to skin out, interactions, things like that. There are kids flat out are autistic. My kids are one of them, and so are yours. But
absolutely,
the thing is that the world of psychology has failed in one big area, and that does the most of the assessing for autism. And what psychology focuses on is the negative. It focuses on the deficits, not the strengths. The social communication, the behavioral challenges, the not paying attention, the not being able to do this or not being able to do that. But the questionnaires, and I just filled out the new questionnaires for my own kids.
Second, let me put this
so
in.
Many.
Hold on one second, not to cut you off. But when I said the 1 in 9, I meant that based on boys. Now, right now, today, the new statistic is 1 in 36 in the U.S. But when you break it down to in the black and brown community, and Mary, you fall up under here, regardless of the fact, y'all got Indian in y'all family, so we already know. That is when an alarming statistic comes up. And then, because more adults are now getting tested more than ever, it's 1 in every 47 adults is diagnosed with autism. 44% higher in males. Asian and Pacific Islanders are 3.3%, Hispanics 3.2%, Blacks 2.9% that identify as autistic, and they're continuing to grow. So that's where we are. We're in a cultural high rate of autism. Yes, go.
So a big part of that is the questioning, the forms you fill out. They are literally never, sometimes, often, frequently. And a lot of these questions fall into a category that's insane to me because, like me and Georgette were talking, if I need to vent because I'm looking at the questions I'm like, oh my God. This is stuff that a normal kid does. So, for instance, the younger your kid is that gets labeled, a lot of these questions will fill into a normal category. For instance, does your child sit and behave, or do they run around? Are they active? A good population of our children are like that. They like to run around. That's a normal child. Do they obey commands? Do they do this? Do they do this? Do they do this? It is such a black and white blanket questions. They're so they rely on such a generalized question, broad question. Does your child prefer to play alone? Which is open-ended. You know, there could be various reasons. One, they're an only child. They're used to being by themselves. They're shy. They could be in a new environment. It does not always indicate autism. Does your child, have trouble making friends? Some kids naturally have a hard time. A lot of other questions, they overlap with other conditions such as anxiety or ADHD. So it leads to different diagnoses, and which is why some parents end up getting 5 or 6, diagnoses before they get to autism. I truly believe in this day and age, our autism is the blanket for adult version of fibromyalgia. Fibromyalgia is you have a pain and we can't figure out why. We don't know. So we're going to give you a label so we can give you medications to deal with it. Autism is your kid's just different, and it's not okay, and so we're going to give them a label. Now, a lot of these questions lack context and not accurate for how your child's behavior depends on the environment. For example, they don't ask you what he's like at school or what he's like at home. Does your child have trouble following directions? Well, one, how many men, adults, or women have a hard time following directions? I'm saying men because of the whole story of, we don't look at directions. We just figure out how to put the damn thing together. So it ends up cricket. Are they at school, do they have problems following directions? Is it noisy? Is it unfamiliar situation? These standardized tests are a one-size-fits-all approach. So many children, regardless of whether or not they're artistic or not, might show behaviors that can fit into a broad criteria because we are now a spectrum, not just autism, it's autism spectrum, and there's a wide variety of issues that might show that they could fit into it. For instance, does your child avoid eye contact? But that doesn't explain if they're shy or anxious. Or, and this is the other part, is they don't take into context cultural issues, cultural tendencies. And this is a part of the reason why a lot of Asians end up diagnosed in America or, regular countries for autism because women, this is the Middle East too, women are taught not to have direct eye contact. It's a sign of respect. They focus a lot on communication and social issues. Or does your child struggle with conversation? Does your child seem uninterested in others? All kids go through phases where they tend to be less social. especially during transitions. That doesn't take into effect all that stuff.
So my phone was acting up. I'm back. I'm sorry about that. I wanted to say, do you think that this is like a nitpicking situation? I was in the elevator. We get the food delivery, so I was doing all that. So I'm still here, guys. But do you think that they're really not kind of nitpicking or just finding all the little things to say, oh, okay, diagnosis? Or do you think there is really a epidemic when it comes to autism?
I don't believe it's an epidemic. What I believe is not so much nitpicking, but because it's such a spectrum, instead of actually sitting down with the children in a comfortable environment, and this is part of my next part of it, is that when they get tested, you're taking them into a clinical setting. Do tests really ever happen at home? No. They're in a neutral zone. If you're going to a library, you're going to a church, you're going to a hospital, you're going somewhere. So you're taking a child out of their environment that they're comfortable in, shoving them into an environment they've never, ever been before, and they are forced to behave, one, do what they're supposed to do like a trained monkey, and answer questions and do things to figure out what they are, instead of actually sitting down in a setting where they're comfortable and actually viewing and interacting with them in their own setting to figure out where actually the issues lie. All the questions are negative. So, does your child struggle with change? And that's oversimplifying the child's ability to adapt to certain types of changes while excelling in others. A child may love routines and may struggle with a change in one context, but handle transitions well in another. For instance, you always go to the store every day at the same time, or you do something on a regular basis. And they may struggle with that, not wanting to go to the store because they just don't want to go anywhere. But they go to school and they can handle transitions very well. Or if they're not looking at how that child's feeling and what the contents around that transition. They're just blanket. How does your kid handle change? And it's not looking at other things, too, according to the tests of, what's going on in the household, divorce, moving, school starting, school ending, seasonal change. They're going from summer to playing outside and doing this, and this to going to school. All kids have an issue with that transition. These tests also rely on parents and caregivers and their interpretation of the issues. And so parents who don't have training or experience in things, doing things that you don't want them to do, you're very narrow-minded as a parent. My husband is one of those. Because of what he was raised in, you begin to see these issues that you never noticed before. So you're picking all these things that they're doing because it's not what you think they should be doing. And so a lot of bad parenting can fall into that category and label them as autistic. There's been this big delusion going on in society about parents having this need to make sure their kids are always happy. And so you, as a parent, run yourself ragged to make sure your child is happy instead of letting them just feel and learn how that happiness comes from the inside, not from outside.
Absolutely. And I also think that happy parents produce happy children. So you have to go out and make yourself happy, Mom. You have to go out and take care of yourself, Dad, in order to have a well-rounded child that you are rearing. I read this somewhere that the success of a child is not measured academically, financially, physically. I'm trying that, friend. It is solely based on the happiness of the mother. I think that is a brilliant thing to look at because children don't know, the struggle of bills and the struggle of everyday adulting. But what they do know is that Mom was happy today, and she made dinner, and she cooked breakfast, and I ate. That's what they go off of. That's what they know. And when it comes to them diagnosing our children, now I have never heard this before. Quick story, insert story. I was at an event, tending bar, and the event was a lot of medical personnel and physicians from Emory here in Atlanta. And they were having their, meet and greet at the hotel. And one of the physicians, we got into a conversation because, we were just casually coming, and the conversation of autism came up. He, asked me about different things, about how, from diagnosis to now. And he says, wow. He said, Mom, if you keep doing the things you're doing, changing, make sure you're changing the diet, supplementing the things, doing the therapy, you can have a diagnosis of being undiagnosed of autism, because this is what his son had went through. I had never heard this ever in my life. I don't know if you have, Mary, but they got a clear diagnosis that he was no longer autistic or was no longer being on the spectrum based on his growth and abilities. And now his child is 17, so he recently got this. Okay, so he recently got this at 17.
Yes. So that's how I built my business. And so autism is the only disorder that is a spectrum, which means then this is the reason that most parents don't understand this, is you need to be retested every couple of years. And that decides how you're growing. If you are overcoming or if you're under. Correct. And so Norway, which is where I trained in autism and built my programs on, which coming up July 4th, Freedom Day, is where you can actually get certified in the trainings that I provide to become a certified specialist in autism, where you can actually go and register it with a board and be considered an actual autism specialist, so you can collect insurance. And so what Norway has done is the same thing that I do. And so you don't look at the label. Like I tell parents that I work with their kids, with them and their kids, because I don't work with the kids, I work with the parents to help them work with their kids, is that I don't care what that label is. To this day, my kids they know their brains are wired. They don't know their label. You break down the issues they have. What are they struggling in? Is it regulation? Is it speech? Is it mind-body? Is it food? What are their issues? Address the issues from severity, from the least severe to the most severe. You address them, overcome them. As you overcome those labels, you overcome the issues, you overcome the label. Which is why Norway had to close down its borders for special needs families for that particular reason, because they don't have enough resources to help everybody. People from all over the world were going there for their program. Which is why I always say autism is not something that needs to be cured. It isn't something that needs to be fixed. You need to fix the issues to do with the label. You overcome, you teach regulation, you teach mind-body, you teach and understand how they're
broken.
Wired. No,
right.
they're not broken. They're just wired differently. And that is the biggest thing. And that is the coolest thing. But you have so many people that market because they got put on a commercial on ABC, on some affiliate local news station. So now they market on their programs that they have been seen on ABC. And so these professionals that claim to be professionals will tell you, we can cure it. You need to take these supplements, these vitamins, these things, and it'll fix it. Or if you get rid of all these foods, we'll fix it. And it's pumping your kid with more crap.
No, you got to have a complete plan.
You got to have a complete plan, mind, body, and soul. By that, they need to figure out what's going on in the body and address all the issues. And there are certain waters and supplements, pH waters, that help with the issues, because what it's doing is it's balancing the pH in your body. It's also balancing different things. There has been some success with, on the top of that, some different, like, HGH patches. And what that's doing is it's fixing the connectivity in the brain. It's adjusting some of the things that we're struggling with. So what they have found with autistic kids, and this is blew my mind, is that, so when you're born, your brain is like a highway. Well, basically, look at your brain as the LA freeway at rush hour traffic. So you got every signal, everything backed up, all these lights going off all the time because your brain is firing. A regular person, as you learn, your brain is lazy. For everything it does, it is the laziest thing you own in your body. And so what it does is its whole job is to keep you alive. So as you learn, those roads get shut down for construction, basically. And so as you learn, it becomes more efficient. Well, with neurotypical individuals, they don't shut down. And so a lot of times some of them wirings aren't efficient and get crossed over, which is the reason you have depth issues in some areas compared to others. There are natural ways to fix it. There's some, supplements, there's some patches, there's some things you can do. There's also rewiring of the brain. They've had a lot of success with NLP and different timeline therapies and different hypno things that help subconsciously fix the wiring and adjust different things. This is what I specialize in. Along with that, you're looking at what their struggles with and helping them understand and overcome. It's not a set them in a room to society, because it doesn't matter. Like one of the questions that really bugged me on that test was, does your child talk about things that adults don't care about? Yes, but all kids do. But when you have a child who's willing to learn and loves to learn, they're going to talk obsessively about it. So because they're showing an interest in something, and how many parents, I'm sorry, but I don't care about space. I really don't. But that's what he's interested in. And so he explains everything. He stopped explaining it to me because Mom's dumb. Because Mom forgot we only have 8 planets. So now he goes and talks to Dad about it because him and Dad have a common interest. All kids talk about crap that we don't care about. Everybody. It's human nature. You talk about what you're interested in. You need to find that person that's interested in the same thing to talk to them about it. How many times does your spouse or, come and talk to you about something you really could care less about? And we pretend to listen. Then you get to the point you just tell them, I don't care. Go find a boy, go find someone to talk to about it. I don't care. That is the reason why we have such a high divorce rate when it comes to elections. Because couples are fighting over who they're voting for. And they won't budge to see the other side. It's the same concept. But that's what we live in. And now our kids are taking the fall for it, because as adults we become so narrow-minded, so close-minded. This is how it's going to be, and we have to push our own agenda so much that we can't see past our nose.
Trash.
Now our kids have to suffer from the consequences.
When you drop one of the carrots.
Do you think that there should be several different tests or this one standard test? Because our children are different. I think it needs to be different tests. But they come in, they give all the children the same test. If you've ever been to a clinic, one of the first tests they do is they talk to your child and they measure the eye contact. And then they take all the toys and then they pour them on the floor and see what toy your child seeks interest in, or if they seek interest at all, or if they lined them up or color coordinated them, or whatever the behavior is that they expressed at that time. And then they ask the children a series of questions. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, like the toys, they're not age-appropriate toys. They're a basket full of toys that are done for little kids.
Especially if your child.
Have you noticed that?
Toys. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, my kids do, but my kids things that are different. You know, like my daughter loves toys. She loves dolls. She loves stuffed animals, stuff like that. She plays mommy, basically. My son is one of those that likes Legos. He likes blocks. He likes to construct and build things and do things. Or he likes to take animals and make his own environment.
And if he's like your nephew, he likes to play with knives. So we had to teach him how to use a knife.
I'm not playing with knives.
No, when you were little, son, you like to play with knives because you saw mommy using a knife all the time.
But, Mommy, I don't play with knives. It's too dangerous. Why do you even say that?
I know. It's dangerous because you understand.
Mom, you're embarrassing your son.
You said what, baby?
You're embarrassing your son.
It's very dangerous.
No, but at 2 years old, he was chasing me around the house with a knife, y'all. I told that story several times. This is why he knows how to use one now.
That's dangerous.
It is dangerous, and it was very dangerous, but you thought it was funny. I'll try it.
He just was trying to learn how to play cycle.
He was getting ready for combat.
That's right. You let him watch too many G.I. Joes.
Do you think 8 and 10-year-old is too young? Kind of way off, but I just was thinking, do you think 8 to 12 is too young to teach how to use a rifle or a firearm?
Depends on the child.
Gotcha.
Oh, thank you.
It depends on their environment. So, for instance, if you grew up on a farm, you are basically taught. I mean, okay, we'll get back when we were kids. We had paintballs or squirt guns. We had, pop guns, snap guns. We were always taught from a very young age how to use a weapon. I learned to use a rifle when I was 7, only because I wasn't big enough to hold it when I was younger.
That's so cool.
I grew up in a hunting world.
I was 9. Put all of it in there. I was 9 when I first shot a 30-06, and it kicked me back on my butt. Even though my uncle was holding it and helping me, he told me he wanted me to feel that, so I was never gonna be afraid of it. Put all of them in there, baby. And so I learned then. I started shooting handguns at 10, 11. But I was on a you remember Future Homemakers of America, FHA? They had they had a program where you could learn how to shoot BB guns, and I was on that. Yep, that's what I did.
Well, okay. Here's a food for thought for you when you think about this. School shootings, and I know it just happened in your area.
It did.
All of our school shootings have happened in suburban or rural areas. They have happened in the bigger cities. They do not happen in farmland. They don't happen in suburban areas. They don't happen, in farmland, in this areas, because we are taught how to use them. We're taught how to deal with them. A lot of kids, we grew up with weapons by the door, because on a farm you can't have it locked up because you don't know what's going to get you. Or if something happens, a bull charges, you need to do that. Go get that gun and deal with that animal. A life or death situation.
Fact.
In the cities, kids aren't taught.
Hunting.
Yeah. Well, there was just a story about that in the news the other day. Last year, a father and son, young boy, went hunting with dad. Dad got attacked by a bear. He's alive because of his son. He was like 10. Shot and killed the bear. It is all about what you teach, and it's about what you do as a parent and how you teach respect. Weapons are not toys. Yes, you have a toy gun. Yes, you use them. We squirt guns. We shoot with each other. But I also have, we have the BB guns and stuff like that the kids don't play with.
Yeah, I've
With a
been
bow
thinking
and
about
arrow.
getting Deji a BB gun or a pellet gun for Christmas, just so he can learn.
I'd start with a paintball gun. I'd start with a paintball gun.
Okay.
Only because it hurts more and it does less damage. By that, I mean, you know, he's not going to break a window with a paintball gun. Until he learns to aim, I'd start with a paintball gun.
Okay.
That's how my kids started. We are literally starting from squirt guns to paintball guns.
I was just say your kids know they're pretty accurate now, and they can shoot pretty good now.
My son is, my daughter's not.
Okay.
But she's pretty, and we say that in a way that because she is growing so much so fast, her body's all out of proportion. So, like, she can literally walk across the floor and trip over her own 2 feet.
She's taller than David.
Barely.
Where?
But she's also older.
Oh, I know David's older, but I was like, is she taller?
No, Ariana's actually older by a year.
Oh, you know what? I always thought it was opposite.
A lot of people do because he's more mature than she is. No, she's actually literally taking after me. So I hit these growth spurts young, and so by the time I was 12, I was taller than all the boys. But I didn't hit puberty till high school. So I was one of those girls that, you know, you all of a sudden over the summer developed. What made my life self-conscious for a while. But it's all about what we teach our kids, and that is the biggest problem we have is with society is we are teaching our kids that we need external validation to make ourselves feel better. We need to buy crap. We need to do things. The more money we spend, the more we look, the way we look, the more recognition we get, the happier we are. When happiness comes internally, you got to be good with yourself before you can be good with the outside. But it's also how we handle and deal with situations. You know, a good example is, you know, you get frustrated, you get mad, you walk away. Instead of just walking away, actually telling your children, I am getting frustrated, I need a timeout. Mom cannot regulate, mom needs a break. So what you're teaching them is it's okay to lose it, but this is how you deal with it as you lose it.
Man, that is so smart, because Gage tell me now, I think you need to calm down and take a few deep breaths. So I calm down, I take a few deep breaths.
So does Ariana, and I look at her and I tell her, no, mom wants to be mad. Leave mom alone. Mom's going to go outside because mom needs just to deal with it. Because there's some days you just need to just explode. You let everything but pile up. Bury everything. You bury everything, which is not healthy. But doing it in a constructive manner is what's key. It's all your feelings, all your emotions are all your body telling you something's up. And we live in this society where it is all about, it's not okay to get mad. You are supposed to always be happy. You're supposed to always look at the bright side of everything. We call that positive toxicity. And what you're doing is you're actually ignoring all the things. You're burying everything inside, which will cause medical conditions later on. Because you're not actually releasing the stress. There's no such thing as stress. Stress is literally a response to data or information that is put in front of you. It's how you deal with situations. But society has told us that we are stressed out as a whole because of the environment we live in. You know, it's like for the longest time, anytime anyone ever heard that I had autistic kids, the first words were out of their mouth was, I'm sorry, you're stressed out.
Oh,
I'm looking
right.
at it and go, I'm not stressed.
I'm not stressed because all kids stress out parents, but I'm not stressed because they're autistic. I'm stressed because of limited resources, and I'm raising him by myself. And I'm talking about personally. I wasn't stressed out because he was autistic.
That's it.
Yeah.
No, we've talked about this. All kids are a pain in the ass.
Man, hello, say that louder. Yes.
All kids are monsters. All kids are a pain in the ass.
All kids
do dumb shit.
Yes.
Yes. This is the rite of
All
passage
kids
for
are
kids.
nasty. They're messy, they're nasty, and most kids are sticky. So stop saying,
yes.
Oh. And they always go, oh, your son is autistic. He's doing so well. Me, what the hell was he supposed to be doing? What was he supposed to be doing?
That's it.
I'm parenting
they
just
get
like
a double
you are.
standard.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. We put these kids in labels, and then we put them on to an exception of what they're supposed to do. And what holds our kids back, and I've told this to so many clients. I am lecturing a client right now about it. What holds our children back, special or not special, are the parents. All parents. I had the same issue where I would do everything for my kids. One, it is so much easier. Instead of sitting there yelling at them to go clean their room, get your laundry picked up so I can go do laundry.
Right.
It is easier just to do it your damn self. It's faster. It's quicker. Okay. Yes, I admit that one. My kids have developed a phrase. I taught them the phrase. Mom, walk away. My office is in the basement. For one reason and one reason only. Because then I don't always know what's going on with them. But I don't interfere. I know where they are because I can hear them walk across the floor upstairs. But that way I don't micromanage everything they do, and I'm not getting on them. Okay, do this. Come on, let's go. Let's do it. I periodically now go and check on them and yell at them for not doing what they're supposed to be doing. But I don't micromanage anymore because that is the biggest failure, especially with autistic kids, is parents' interference. We do everything. And the problem is that a lot of these kids are so flippin' smart. So they have learned, we whine, you're going to do it for me. We don't do it, you're going to do it. We're not going to talk because you're going to talk.
We're going to point and show you, and you're going to adjust to us.
Exactly.
We don't want to do it. Yeah.
Exactly. I had a client, the kid is 20 years old, and nothing. He uses nonverbal. He is nonverbal. But here's the deal. I told Dad, I go, you need to start stepping back.
Mm-hmm.
Take a break. Let him do something. All of his therapists have been telling him that for years. And now that he's starting to finally do it, starting to grow.
I know that
he will tell Dad now.
Discouraged about their children not being verbal, but I met someone recently at like a conference who did not talk till he was 11. 11, y'all. Don't give up on your children. 11. He started talking at 11. I think he finally graduated high school at like 19, 20. Went to college and is doing wonderful.
We are the reason our children fail. And I know I'm going to get hate mail for this. Go ahead, bring it on.
No,
but I want you to look, before you do that, I want you to look at your actions. I want to look at what you do as a parent for that child. Are you literally doing everything for them? Are you speaking for them? Are you allowing them to be a little shit and throw a temper tantrum and you give them what they want to shut them up? Are you buying them everything they want because it's easier?
Mhm. And when they grunt and do you give in to that too? because that is another learned behavior. We use the analogy of when one baby cries in the nursery, all babies cry in the nursery.
And that is key. It's just letting them be, not micromanaging, but also not looking and nitpicking everything they do. And trying to decipher, because I get so many questions from parents. Is this normal? Is this normal? Is this normal? You know, is walking on your toes normal? Is it a sign of autism? Well, kids do it. It's what they do afterwards. It's not just one thing they do. It's a mass of different things that they do that put it into that label. But does it really matter if they're autistic? It is all about what issues they are struggling with. You look at the issues, you overcome the issues,
Good job,
overcome the label. And that is the biggest sole factor of why my kids have never been on disability. They've only got an educational diagnosis. For that reason. Because I don't, for instance, my son used to be nonverbal, banging his head on the wall, being frustrated, blowing up, not just a little terror. And now he asks what happened. He gets mad, he gets frustrated, but it's normal. You know, he's starting to talk, he's starting to have conversations. His speech is just slower than everybody else. But he is growing at a huge level. He's improving at such a huge level. So we get tested on a regular basis. And so the thing is that I don't want that label to hold him back from possibilities, for one. And two, I don't want him to go to college, a scholarship, just because he's autistic. I want him to earn that scholarship. You know, why should he get into a school just because he's autistic? When there's a kid that deserves it more that should have gotten that position.
Almost finished. He over here asking for a break. I put him to work today. That's why I hear the juicer going. He enjoys it though. And what I have found out is when he helps me in the kitchen, it has improved his hand-eye coordination. It has improved how he writes, because he has to be so precise with using the equipment and careful with the knives. Like his handwriting is so good. So good. He writes in cursive and calligraphy, and about 6 other different fonts that he just really, really loves. But I have another thing I wanted to discuss. How do you feel about all these adults getting tested in their adulthood, now coming into the terms that they're autistic?
It depends on the reason they got tested. So I work with a few of them that have just gotten a diagnosis. Okay. Some of them, it's about that missing piece. You know, they always struggled in school. They are legitimately autistic. And so they got that missing piece of why I'm different. And so, one of the clients I work with, it's about him he's a people pleaser, but he's one of those that doesn't quite understand the emotions and how to connect them to his body. Which is a very common thing with autism. And so I'm helping him understand the connection and how to connect the mind and body together. If you're getting it for an excuse, you're looking for something that's wrong with you, that's one thing. Then no diagnosis is going to ever satisfy you. If you're looking for that missing piece of the puzzle, like you struggle all your life with these issues, and now you've got this label that makes sense, and it helps you feel whole, more power to you. It all depends on your motive. It's kind of like, look at it as like you were adopted and you're looking for your birth parents. Because you want to find out where you came from. You want to find those pieces because something in you doesn't feel whole. You're looking for an answer. Then more power to you. That's great. Does that make sense?
Yep. I just always wanted to know, like, because I have a lot of friends. Okay, cut it. I have maybe about 6 friends that have recently taken online tests to be diagnosed, and they're like, oh, it explains it why I don't like, touch, or that explains it why I don't like this, or that explains it why, I used to be so upset with that. So,
okay, you can never take an online test. Ever take an online test. To get a diagnosis.
Oh, okay. So see, that's what I'm like. Let me tell you what they did. It's giving an online test.
Because it's more than just a test.
Well,
online
it's an
test
assessment.
to get you a diagnosis.
Yeah.
That is only one small piece.
Okay.
To get that accurate label. Because, like we just said, those tests are very, very one-sided. They're very blank. They're very broad. And in the world of psychology, we only focus on the negative. And we don't have a pretense of what the situation incurs. Which is why so many people are getting that label now, because they're taking these tests and they're not looking at the situations of why they felt that way. Which is why to get an accurate diagnosis, you need more than just a test. You need this assessment done in person and look at different factors. There's many factors into it. And this is where our testing is.
If you just do an online test, it's not completely accurate. That's just a portion of it.
Think of it this way.
We're going to have to send out some resources that centers that will test adults. We should post that on our page. Yeah.
We will do that this afternoon. Now, the question to you is, would you trust a diagnosis from a test you found online for your child?
Not for my child. But because a lot of centers are only testing children, I'm like, if I take this test and I say yes to so many of them and they tell me you may be of neurodivergent, I'm probably going to, after that, I'm going to go take in-person assessment personally.
So my next question for you, if you take this test, how is that going to change your life? How is that going to change who you are?
Oh, it doesn't at all. But for them, I would be like, oh, well, child, I knew that there was something. Or I knew that.
So
yeah.
Right. And that's it, is that a lot of people are struggling internally. And they're trying to find, because of COVID and a lot of fear that we live in, we are focusing so much on negative things. We're looking at, because autism is in the news. Autism is everywhere. That's all you hear about. So now we're focusing on that. It's like the ADHD of the 80s and 90s. Everybody has ADHD.
Can a psychiatrist diagnose a person with autism?
Depends on their training.
Okay. Because one of my friends, her therapist, who is a physician and a therapist, diagnosed her. And this is the one that I'm like, all right, I can see it. I can definitely, because even before, I would tell her, girl, you have a lot of gauge similarities. And that's just what I kept it as. I can't diagnose.
Yeah, it depends, especially like psychologists or therapists. Some of them are trained to do that. Some aren't. Most doctors are, or they will send you to a specialist.
And that's what her therapist did.
A good therapist will tell you or not if they're trained to do that. Like, I get referrals from therapists who do not work with those type of people because they're not trained in it, and they will admit to it. They're like, I don't know enough to help you. I will send you to someone that can. That's where I get a good chunk of my work from.
Okay.
Those are the good therapists. You get the ones that have the savior complex that will work with anybody and have no idea what they're doing. I've done
those
with those.
are called group counselors and coaches.
Those are the counselors and therapists who have problems with themselves and are not separating themselves from the problem. I got some good advice over the weekend. And so any coach, any therapist, anybody, you have to be okay with them not being okay.
Mm-hmm.
Your job is for them to be uncomfortable because they're getting the answers they need. And if they're not getting the answers they need, then they're comfortable, which means you're not helping them at all.
Fact. Time to seek a new therapist.
You have to be okay. If you're not okay with them being uncomfortable, then you have problems with yourself and you need to fix them first. Because you're not there to be their friend. You're there to help them. But that's the key. You know, and that's part of why psychology sucks, and I truly believe it does, and I am not for psychology at all. It's because it only focuses on the problem, and it focuses on you talking about them problems. When instead of focusing, you should be acknowledging the problem
and housing some solutions.
Focusing on solutions for the problem. Acknowledging bad shit happens.
To good people.
To everybody.
Mm-hmm. But, you know, sometimes they'll deem it because bad things are happening, they're not a good person. That's one thing I don't like about, yeah.
They're either a bad person or their faith wasn't strong enough or yada, yada, yada. And bad shit just happens. The biggest misconception is we tend to take faith into it. Well, guess what? If you actually sat down and read the Bible, it's like watching a Lifetime movie. I'm sorry, but it is. It's like a mixture of a Lifetime movie and a Hallmark movie. It is a giant tragedy. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You get all these bad things happen to all these good people with some good stuff in between. God never, ever said that he's going to make your life a bed of roses. It is literally how you deal with it. The only thing God ever said is he is going to be with you the whole way.
Always.
That is it. That is the only promise he ever made. That he will be at your side with you. So you have that support. But that's it. He never promised rainbows and sunshine. He never promised good things to good people. And this is where a lot of pastors fail because they emphasize this delusional happiness and that life is going to be great if you believe and you pray.
If you ask me personally, all his disciples, baby, he take them through the ringer, okay? All his
disciples were bad men.
Yeah.
They were not good people when they started working with Jesus.
Yep.
He deliberately picked all the bad ones. You're a tax guy. You had this, you had this. These guys were not the wholesome, faith-going priests. But they turn their lives around. And, you know, we forget these little details. And my kids help emphasizing these details to me a lot. And I have a strong belief in faith. I am a very faith person. So are my kids.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole point is you're supposed to be able to stop what you're doing, turn your life around. You can do bad things, but at the same time, turn it around and do good. Just don't keep doing the same dumb things over again.
That's it.
And I truly believe that's part of the issues we have with society these days is, one, we don't have that strong core of faith that we used to. And I'm not talking God, I'm talking faith in a higher power, something other than ourselves.
Yes, because we put faith in men, we see what that has left us. So you got to create that faith with that higher being, that higher power. Got to.
Having a faith in something gives you a 76% higher rate of overcoming. From addiction to anxiety, depression, things like that.
Facts.
You have your instant support system. But
final thought.
Time for today.
Yeah, I was going to do the final thought. Final thought. Parents,
enjoy your
learn
kids.
Your children. Yeah, learn your children. Enjoy them. They're never going to be this age again. Stop stressing out about the little small dumb shit that you cannot control, and literally love your children for who they are. They can't change you.
And
you
learn.
Think you're perfect because you're the parent. You're not. Learn to
Unless
love
you
them.
got a special child, then they pick out every flaw you have.
Fact.
They call you out.
Mhm. Yeah. That talk about holding the mirror up and speaking some truth.
Learn to walk away. And I'm not saying leave your child and abandon them. I'm saying give them the space to grow. Teach them independence, not complacency.
Yep. Ground yourself because you can grow when you're grounded. That's it. That's all.
And remember, all children are a pain in the ass. All children are monsters. They all say things that are not right. All kids are unfiltered. It is just a fact. Bill Cosby made a living off of it after the Cosby Show. Kids say the darndest things.
Kids say the darndest things. They need to bring that back. Shout out to Bill. Y'all say what y'all want to say, but shout out to Bill Cosby.
Good men do bad things at certain times.
Yep, that's it. It still does not negate all the good shit he did. But that's another time and another show.
That's right.
Mary, thank you for your area of expertise, honey. We are nothing without you. We appreciate it.
And everybody else, have a good day. Have a good night. We'll see you back here, same time, same place next week.
Peace,
next week we are going to talk about reframing and how to take words that your children say and reword them back at them to get them to think for themselves and help them get out of that funk they're in.
Turn up.
It's also a way to use reverse psychology against them to get them to think it for themselves.
That's
very
good.
useful tool. So have a good day. Have a good night. We'll see you back here next week. Bye for now.
Peace.